Earl, I want to start with this because you were coaching in this league. You coached against, you played with KD. We've seen now 3 ejections. So, Earl, this isn't really KD that I've grown up to watch here. What's going on with him?
You can't be one of the best players in the league and not have some nasty to your game. So KD has it. I think what you see is a team that's been structured. They don't have Matt Barnes anymore. They don't have that guy who can come, who can be nasty, be that the guy to protect the players. Be
what
that
about
enforcer.
Draymond?
Draymond can't continue to get kicked out. He's such a big part of the team. He does a lot for that team, assisting, driving, defensively talking, scoring, making big. He's a big-time playmaker for that team. So I think we just see now KD has to stand up for himself, and he's trying to send a message. Like, Boogie Cousins, the forehead to KD's chin, he felt that. So KD had to stand up for himself. He had to say something. He had to get ejected.
So you feel this is kind of a game plan by KD. He's very aware of what he's doing.
He's aware of what he's very aware. He's
Okay.
very strategic. He's very intelligent. Great person. But when you put on that jersey and you enter the court, you have to have an edge to you to let people know that it's not going to be that type of night where you can just punk me throughout the game.
I was telling Kristine earlier that we always do this. We do this in all sports. We think dynasties last forever. I remember when I was a kid. Now that I'm aging myself, but in the mid '70s, the Cincinnati Reds had Johnny Bench and Pete Rose and Joe Morgan and all these great players. I thought it was going to last for a decade. About 4 years into it, they all break up. They go different places. These dynasties don't last as long as we think. Steph's now hurt. KD's had injuries. How long do you think this dynasty Klay Thompson could leave lasts?
This dynasty in Golden State is young enough to have impact longer than most dynasties.
Okay.
I think what's interesting is the money. Now, the only person to me who has always been the MVP of that team has been Klay Thompson.
Good defender.
Great defender. You think about the OKC series in the playoffs. He held them down and hit a lot of big shots offensively to keep them in the game, if not to win the game. And he's always going to defend the other team's best offensive player. So to me, Klay is the guy that's kind of shifty. You don't know what could happen with him. And if they lose him, that's a big loss for the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah. Klay and Luke Walton are very close. If you were going to try, let's say you were rival executives and you said, we got to break this thing up. Would you go after Klay?
I would go after Klay, especially with Lonzo. Klay and Lonzo just fit perfectly with each other. Lonzo's a pass-first point guard, and with passers, he has to learn how to score Lonzo. When he passes and he gets assists, he starts to feel good about himself, which then gives him the chance to be creative offensively and score and get to the basket. Klay is a knockdown shooter, big-time defender, can hit tough shots down the stretch. And you watch the Lakers play. They don't have a closer.
Oh, God, no, they're a mess at the end of games.
They don't have a closer. Klay could be that closer, and you put other guys around him, you have a very talented team.
Okay, I want to go to this OKC thing. Russell Westbrook plays the way he plays. It can be a little tunnel vision, but he's dynamic. Paul George, spot-up shooter, love him. Melo, past his prime, not willing to come off the bench, not a big fan. But at some point, if you ran OKC and all of a sudden you're a 5 or a 6 seed, it's not brilliant. It's not working out. Would you consider saying, listen, Paul George can leave me in a month, 2 months, 3 months. I'm just going to make a move at the end of the day and deal him. If this thing isn't great near the trading deadline, Earl, it's just not what you thought it was. It's not working. Would you consider trading before the end of the year to get something from the Lakers, trading Paul to L.A.?
No, I wouldn't. And I think Sam Presti's a visionary. He's the GM of OKC. He came into the business at a young age, and he drafted Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. He knows talent.
Steve Adams.
Steven Adams.
He's pretty good.
He knows it, and he sees it in as a visionary. The thing with OKC, you have 3 guys you mentioned. You have Russ, who was my teammate in OKC. You have Melo, who was my teammate in Denver. Paul George, who we played pickup with at UCLA over the years. You have 3 guys that can go for 50 in isolation basketball. What they have to learn to do is to play off of the pass, score in different ways, move the ball, playing a 0.5 mentality, which the Spurs have displayed over the decade.
Can they do that?
Yes, you can do that. You just move the ball.
Yeah, but I mean, it's easier said than done with Melo. You played with Melo. It's not like that all the time.
Melo, people hit Melo and they take on Melo. He's not a winner. He doesn't want to win. He's a bad. I love Melo. I was with Kenyon Martin the other day. We were talking about Melo. I love Melo. You have to understand him, engage him, and realize like every rhyme and reason is different for each player. And once you engage each other, it's like a band. Everyone has a different instrument they must play, but it all makes beautiful music if you play it at the right time.
So he's the crazy drummer.
He's not the crazy drummer, but he could be a drummer. To me, Russ is the crazy drummer. It just fits his personality.
He's Tommy Lee.
Tommy Lee.
Okay. So I'm watching the Cavs, and Kristine, she thinks the Celtics are going to win the East, and I think Kristine on that one's crazy, and I like the Cavs. And I'm sitting there last night. Isaiah Thomas is an all-star. Now, he's not going to be as productive as he was with Brad because they really needed him to score a lot. But, like, they're reeling off, like, 10 straight wins. And if you look at their schedule, they could win 19 to 20, the Cavs, and they don't have Isaiah Thomas. He could be there by Christmas. I don't know. Like, I know I got nothing against Boston, but they're going to be relying on a 19-year-old in the playoffs, Jason Tatum. I get Love and LeBron and Isaiah and Crowder. How is Isaiah Thomas going to fit in here? Earl was an all-star last year.
First off, Brad Stevens is a master coach. We know that. He's done it. He's done it in college. He's doing it in the NBA. You look at Cleveland, they don't have Isaiah Thomas or Derrick Rose, and they're running off these wins.
It's incredible.
It's a lot
and
of
they're
teams.
Crushing people.
About 97% of the teams in the NBA are competing to keep a job, coaches in front office. 3% are competing to win in June. The Cavs, I've always been that team where you know they're going to be there in June, wherever LeBron is at. They're competing to win in late June, so they're projecting over time to be polished, to be on point later on during the season. Now, you think about moving forward. They understand they're closing out this year, and they're headed into January. So they want to head into January being polished and being on point, going into All-Star break, gearing up for a mindset, a strategic mindset of chess moving forward for home court advantage and who they want to play and who they don't want to play depending on travel.
So yesterday I did something. I got some pushback. I watched my first game November 13th, 1971. Portland was in Los Angeles. That was the first game I watched. So I said from that point forward, I don't count Bill Russell. I didn't see him play. I don't count Wilt because Wilt was old with a headband. I said, you keep telling me guys are going to dominate this league. 8 players in my life, 1971 to today, have changed the league. They're not always the best player. Have changed the league. Here is my list. The Skyhook, Magic Bird, Jordan, Shaq, Duncan changed the power to the West, LeBron and Steph Curry. Now, Kobe and Barkley are better, and maybe Isaiah in some facets than Curry, but we wouldn't be shooting 42 threes a game if Steph Curry potentially didn't come into this league. So there's my list of the game changers. It's not the best players, although in many instances they are. Did I miss one? From 1971 on, who?
Absolutely. John Stockton, Karl Malone. They introduced the pick and roll, which is now dominant of today.
Wait a minute. Where'd you come up with that one?
Where? The pick and roll with John Stockton and Karl Malone is legendary.
Oh, I know. I watched it for 15 years.
Yeah, so it introduced it, which allows Steve Nash to come into the NBA and manipulate the pick and roll.
Okay, John, let's work on the graphics. Let's add 2 more. That's a really good one.
Yeah, Steve Nash as well.
No, now you're just extending it into crazy people.
No, I'm not, and I'm going to tell you why.
Steve Nash.
The pick and roll with John Stockton and Karl Malone was from the sideline to the middle of the court. Pocket pass to Karl Malone rolling through the baseline. When I got into the NBA in 2001, teams started to send the pick and roll towards the baseline and called an ice or a push. Do not let the guard handling the ball come middle because John Stockton and Karl Malone dominated that. Steve Nash took that and started to manipulate the baseline drive off the dribble, which was a no-no for point guards. He took that, he mastered that, and along from that came your Chris Paul. From that came your Kyrie Irving. From that came this new age of basketball, and the threes that came along with it continued to just explode.
So now I'm at 11. If I keep you on 5 more minutes, you'll have Otto Porter in here.
Kobe.
Let's come on. Oh, enough with Kobe. I've seen Kobe. It was called Michael Jordan.
Kobe.
He didn't change the league.
81.
Oh, 81 what?
With the win, points.
That's not changing the league. It's just a good night.
Every young player.
I've had some good nights. I'm not changing anything outside of my shirt the next morning.
2 dominant players in basketball right now.
All right, stop right now.
From LA.
I'll bring you back. Tom, this is nonsense. I want to get into LaVar Ball before we get into the Kobe Magic stuff, Kobe MJ stuff, comparisons, because I put up my 8 great players. I'll get to that in a second. LaVar Ball, UCLA is a great university. You went to it.
Yes.
And Lonzo, to me, is their best player. Then he pulled now one son out of school at UCLA, a son that who knows could use a great education at UCLA. I mean, it's an amazing international university. I kind of feel like LaVar's loud. But the difference between Vince McMahon is loud, but there's depth. The Kardashians are loud and noisy, but there's depth. I think this is a mistake. Well, I mean, he's taken his kids out of college. What's the win here?
I think for LaVar, you think about the big baller brand. It's always been a business, even since high school. So for him removing Jello from UCLA is preparing him in the business to stay global and push the brand. Now, I think Jello plays overseas. He doesn't go to Europe. I think he goes to Asia for more impactful for business, strategic plans. I think even a younger one, I think Melo follows him. And so I think LaVar has his plan, and he's emphasizing, he's executing his plan. Players all the time, they don't even go to high school in Europe. If you're a good basketball player,
they have doesn't Europe have the system where by 13 you're into the academy?
Yeah, you're in an academy, but really you're in basketball school. So why can't Americans do the same thing? Why can't players growing up on our basketball courts take business into their own hands sometimes and forego college and go overseas?
I think that sounds great, but are they getting Mike Krzyzewski overseas? Are they getting? I mean, to me, Bagley, this kid Marvin Bagley III, is a great potential player. I think hanging out with Mike Krzyzewski for a year is good.
Yeah,
I think he'll become a better player than. How do I know he gets a good coach in Asia?
I agree with that. He's getting experience, and Marvin Bagley to me is the number one pick
By far.
By far, what he's doing at Duke is playing within a system. He can play on the perimeter, shoot threes, handle the ball.
But what's wrong with a system, Earl? I think it's good for a great player to play within a system because, by the way, in high school they don't have to. They dominate the game. What's wrong with having a kid go to college in America, Earl, and have to come and play with people?
There's nothing wrong with that. And there's also nothing wrong with having another plan and following your father's plan and executing that elsewhere.
I don't like that plan. Because I think, listen, in Europe, this is a long system, and there's a history of very good fundamental coaching in Europe. Isn't there?
Says who?
Well, I don't know. Those players that come out of there are pretty darn good fundamentally.
Darko went over Melo because of the exact same reason. The Pistons drafted Darko because he was mature, fundamentally sound, ready to play. Melo went later after winning the championship because of that exact same reason. You really don't know what you're going to get anywhere. Every player that attends Duke would not make it to the NBA.
Right.
Every player that attends UCLA would not make it to the NBA. You have to have a plan for yourself and believe in it and be crazy enough to think it can happen in order to make it. And we all know genius and crazy go hand in hand.
Yeah.
That's why I always say LaVar is a genius. He's crazy. It goes hand in hand. But he believes in it, and his family believes in it, and we will not know until the end game is present. Right now, we're watching the process.
Okay, so we know. Do you think Lonzo's a bust, or do you buy into him?
I think Lonzo's a superstar.
Okay, we'll disagree on that, but that's fine. What about this kid? Do you the kid that's at UCLA? The name again is LiAngelo. Is he an NBA player?
I think he is not an NBA player yet, but you never know what can happen, and he might not become an NBA player.
Okay, what about LaMelo?
I think Melo is a superstar. LaMelo's a superstar.
So you think 2 of the 3 kids go to the NBA and they're a big deal?
Absolutely.
Now Lonzo's the passer, LaMelo's the scorer.
Absolutely. But think about this. We are in a reality TV age. Pickup game at UCLA ran by Rico Hines, who is the G League coach, assistant coach with Reno, connected to Sacramento Kings. Paul George, James Harden, Devin Booker, 25 pros are in there in the gym. Jello's in the gym. Kids running about 7 or 8 years of age. They all run up to Jello first for his autograph. We are in an age of relevancy is being
but can he play?
Off of content.
What's the game
Does it
like?
matter anymore to have a following to build a brand? Does it matter? Can he play? Yes, he can play. Is he a superstar? Not yet. Can he become one? I don't know. But I know what they're doing for their brand is being strategic and being global with their brand.
So you're down on the college system in America.
I love the college system. You got to choose the right school. I'm biased. UCLA.
So you think the college system with the right coach is fine?
I think it is all fun. I think college for me are the best years of my life. And I'm talking about after a 17-year NBA career player and coach. Going to school, going to Westwood was the best years of my life by far.
So I don't like these kids heading over to Europe. Listen, or Asia. You're not going to get Mike Krzyzewski over in Asia.
You're not, but he's getting an opportunity to play. He did not start at UCLA. LaVar knows he wasn't going to get a lot of playing time. They need to continue to build that brand because they're losing a lot. Because Melo's not playing in high school either.
All right, give me this Kobe Bryant's one of the game changers of the NBA. He's Michael Jordan light.
You have Russell Westbrook, you have James Harden, 2 of the best players in the NBA. They have been impacted by the Kobe Bryant presence in LA and his mystique that he's built. And he's changed the game.
How?
Not just because of his game on the court, but his legendary work ethic mentality, which he gave to Devin Booker when Devin Booker faced him in Phoenix. I talked to Kobe after the game. I sent Devin Booker over. Devin Booker went over there. Kobe signed some shoes for him and said, be legendary. A year later, a year later and a day later, Kobe impacted Devin Booker. Devin goes for 70 in Boston, 70 points. And before the game, we talked about him being legendary. So that impact still has presence in the NBA today.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from the newest show on FS1, First Things First, with Chris Carter and Nick Wright.